Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Bobby. Guys, Nick Fuentes went to the Valuetainment podcast with Patrick Bet-David and he says, quote unquote, Jews concern me more than Muslims. Guys, before we jump into the video, as always, if you enjoy my content, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out the links in the description box below, especially my new ebook in which I talk about my reversion journey to Islam. And now, with no further ado, let's have a look.
What do you think about between the two communities, Muslim and Jews? Which one concerns you more?
Jews, for sure.
Tell me why.
More powerful. They're more powerful.
So more powerful in a way, you're talking the fact that they have money, finance, Hollywood. Is that what you're...
Yeah, they have more position in American society.
And how do you think they got that?
I think they got it because they are extremely connected. They're a transnational entity. You know, this is how the Rothschilds got started. Their superpower is that they live everywhere, and they have their Jewish identity supersedes their local identity. So a Jewish person in America or in Germany or in France or in the UK, they can all talk to each other and work together.
Do you think that's a bad thing?
Not in and of itself. It is detrimental for America, though. Is
it detrimental, though? Because, you know, I'm Assyrian, right? Mm-hmm. And I wish Assyrians were more like this. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you why I relate to them. We don't have a country. Assyrians used to have a country. We used to be the first warriors. We were written about in the Bible. You read it all over the place. You know, the history we had, the things we invented. And then we became a little cocky. And God came in and was like, listen, man, relax, Assyrians. You ain't going to come and be the king of the jungle. It's me. And you hear the stories about that they built the tower to go all the way to the top because we are Assyrians and, you know, and then we failed. It's like, no, look at you now. No one knows who Assyrians are. You don't even have a country, right? We know the land in Iraq or wherever you are. You don't have it anymore. I think when a community becomes too cocky, the man upstairs is going to handle that himself, right? But in a sense, when you see they went from a small community to have this much influence, isn't that almost impossible for them to pull off? Like, isn't that... So it either produces one of two things. I'm not intimidated. I'm not a guy that is envious or jealous or, oh my God, that guy's richer than me. That guy's this guy's... I'm not. I want to see what they did and what worked for them. For example, to me, when I think about Jews, I think about Mormons, I think about Scientologists. I used to have an office where half...
Yeah, basically what he's saying there is that he's not envious or jealous of them, but rather he admires their accomplishments. And I could absolutely agree with that. If we look at Jewish supremacy in a vacuum, for them, for their own interest group, what they're doing is absolutely fantastic, of course. They established Israel, and of course you could say with the help of others, but nevertheless, they recruited those others to work for them. Then after the establishment, they're pushing out the Palestinians further and further and further. They're decimating the population of the Palestinians. And if that wasn't enough, they're heavily lobbying in governments all across the world. It's not only in America. Look into the German government and what is happening over there. So therefore, if we look at it again in a vacuum, or we look at it from a evolutionary standpoint and we say, well, survival of the fittest, then yes, they're doing absolutely fantastic.
Scientology. And I learned all these phrases, assist, or, you know, I went to their church and I saw Dianetics and L. Ron Hubbard and what he would say when you get a headache, you do this and all these weird extras. I'm like, oh, interesting. How much money did we give? $200,000. Why'd you give that? But let me tell you, those guys that were in, they had each other's back. It was a fraternity that you wish family members were like this, right? I think Scientologists have it maybe more than Jews. So I think Jews will bite each other a little bit, not as much. And then Mormons have each other's back. Of course, there's a fallout out as well where people come out and they'll talk about God makers or, you know, what Gordon B. Hinckley, and I've read all of that stuff from over the years. But what's wrong with them winning at the highest level?
Well, I agree with you that it is remarkable, and it is actually ominous how much they've achieved. Here's the problem, though. America's an open society. You know, the premise of this country is it's self-government, of, by, for the people. There's a egalitarian idea that we are all citizens, and our government is going to be comprised of the citizenry of America. That's deeply embedded in who we are and in our government and our whole system. And take me, for example. I'm Italian, Mexican, and Irish.
Basically, to sum all of this up, there's nothing wrong with it. They're acting in self-interest. And therefore, yet again, for them, it's absolutely fantastic. It's amazing However, they're a minority in your country and they took over your country and they take your soldiers fighting their wars. They're taking your money, your resources. They're influencing your politics, your social justice movements, your pop culture. They're owning the biggest mainstream media outlets, Hollywood, and even the porn industry. So therefore, at some point, self-preservation has to kick in.
The Italians were very much like this when they immigrated to America. You know, they had in Chicago what they called the outfit, which was the mafia, and they looked out for each other. And when my grandfather died on my mom's side, I believe my grandmother got a loan from the outfit. And they would come by every month or whatever, and they'd bring a fruit basket, and they'd look after her, and they provided financially.
Was it Spilatra's group? Do you know the history of it, or was it Tony Spilatra?
I don't know who it was specifically.
Okay, got it.
But so, these are some of the stories I would hear growing up from my mom and my grandmother.
So think about, at that time, how many people were against Italians? At that time, how many people didn't like Italians in New York? Because, do you know Bank of America was first called Bank of Italy? Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
So can you pull up, Rob, ask, was Bank of America first bank?
But now Patrick Bet-David is assuming that the same way that the Italians assimilated into American culture, it will be exactly the same for the Jewish population. And matter of fact, historical records show that this will never happen. It is because of the cultural, religious, and ethnic identification that Jews hold. Italians are Catholics, they are Christians, and therefore to assimilate into a Christian nation is not hard for them.
The tellers were Italians. You know, they would give small little loans, $10, $4, $5 to them. And some people were not supportive of that. They're like, what are Italian immigrants doing here? You guys are becoming too much power in New York. We're not happy about this. So there was some of that going on 100 years ago.
And that's what I'm saying is that did exist. And then what happened eventually is that Italians assimilated. Eventually,
Exactly
these
right.
groups, these ethnic advocacy groups were broken up, if you could call the outfit that, or the mob of New York, and then Italians assimilated. And when I grew up, I saw myself as American. I didn't see myself as Italian American. I just saw myself as American. And I think that, you know, when you see Jewish people working together, I don't think there's anything wrong with that inherently. And I agree with you. It's like a superpower. It's actually admirable in some ways. They look out for each other. But if society becomes, American society in particular, a place where every group is ganging up, well, we're the whites, we're the blacks, we're the Jews, we're the then I think what America is starts to come apart, and it turns into kind of like a bit of a politicized race war. And I think that you either have to have a society where everybody gets to play by those rules and everybody could be pro what they are, or everybody is assimilated and we're all Americans. And
yes, absolutely. Every single time you have a small interest group that is taken over, you're going against the values of the country, and therefore, ultimately, you're committing treason.
And that's why I say it's detrimental, is that if Jewish people are Jewish first, not of, by, and for America, but of, by, and for the Jewish nation, this is problematic when they're in positions of power, because are they looking out for all of us, or are they looking out for themselves first? And when you look at the Israel policy, that's where people start to say, I think you're looking out for yourselves first. I think you're biased. And unfortunately, you're using the public purse and American soldiers to fight your own battles. And that's the problem. It's not, I don't have hatred for them. I don't have a problem with them in themselves or even what they do. It's just that with our system, that doesn't work.
You know what I would say to that as well? When, you know, if they use the American soldiers in their advantage and all that other stuff. Okay. Who negotiated that deal? Some president negotiated that deal. Someone said yes to it.
Yes.
Right?
Obviously.
They say, well, let me tell you.
Yes, absolutely. And this just shows how powerful they are and how they operate. All the presidents are under their power. Why do all the presidents have to go to Israel? Why do they all have to put on the funny hat and touch the wall? So therefore, Patrick Bet-David just looks at this from a surface political lens. How, well, just a president, a politician, he, well, just sided with Israel. Yeah, why does he do that? Could it be that he's been threatened? Could it be that his life is at stake?
You know,
could that be?
That person is afraid to platform this guy because he's afraid his donors are going to go and do this.
It's not only donors,
and
man.
it's Israel's fault. No, it's not. It's the guy who runs the... It's not Israel's fault. What are you talking about? You know,
again, the implication. The implication.
I got
what will happen
a text,
to those
not
politicians?
a text. What do you call it in the X? A DM I get from AIPAC. Okay, hey, we'd like you to come to Israel. We'd like to invite you. I'm sure many people get that message, right? They send it. I said, I'm going to come with my pastor. I don't want you to pay for it. I'm going to pay for it. I want to bring my crew because I want to go see Jerusalem. You're not going to see me putting the what do they call it? The kippah. I'm not going to put that on. But guess what? I respect the culture, and I want to go to Gaza, and I would ask for some idea of protection, that if we can go to Gaza, show it to her. I want to see this stuff. I want to go with my pastor. First time around, I'm not going to take my kids. Maybe the second, third time, I'll take my kids. But to me, I don't put the onus on.
It's usually a visit that will change your life forever.
Like when the guy's like, that guy has slept with so many people, this, and the girl said yes. No, but you don't understand. He's a man whore. But the girl said yes. So is it Israel or is it the girl?
Yeah, now he's talking about consent, right? So that girl said yes to it, so therefore you can't just blame the guy. And in such an instance, yes, we would agree. But this is a strawman fallacy, of course. It's not that everybody gets a DM from AIPAC, hey, do you like to visit Israel? What do you think happens with people in true power? Not you, Patrick Bet-David. We're talking about politicians. We're talking about the presidents. Do you think they just get a little DM, hey, just come over for a visit? Why do they put on the hat?
You understand what point I'm trying to make here?
Absolutely.
So to me, it's kind of like, I mean, look, if you said Israel over Muslims, right? Mm-hmm. Which of the two do you think has been a bigger net positive to America?
Oh, well, it has to be Israel, absolutely.
Okay, so a part about
How so?
that part.
But, well, in terms of, I wouldn't say net positive. I would say in terms of raw, maybe like gross positive. Because they've had a lot of contributions culturally and even, in terms of art, literature, music.
Yeah, wonderful.
Also scientifically.
Wonderful art.
But
Hollywood.
it's difficult to say on that because I also think that there's quite a bit of a detriment. I think that the melting pot comes from the Jewish community.
What do you mean by that?
The idea of the melting pot, that comes from a Jewish playwright. Because Jewish people come to America, and like all immigrants, they say, well, we want America to be more welcoming. So they start to spin up these ideas that, well, America was never this country of white Christians. It's always been a melting pot for all immigrants.
Well, you think this is only happening in America, man. This is the playbook in Europe as well.
They want the country to be more open because that makes it more comfortable for them. It makes it more tolerant for them.
True
but this has also made us more open and tolerant for Muslims.
Because it's already open and tolerant. Ultimately, on face value, Jews can assimilate quite easily because Jews, many of them, simply look like white people. So therefore, this is not really the reason here, but we cannot speak about this on YouTube.
We're bringing, who's been the biggest driver of like the Hart-Celler 65 Immigration Act? It was like the SPLC, which is run by Jewish lawyers. And so they're major drivers of mass migration. They're also major drivers of the pro-Israel politics, like the Iraq War. It was many Jewish journalists and pundits and advocates.
Sure.
So a point being is like when you calculate on net, and I agree with you, like I think there are a lot of people that are critical of Israel that are reluctant to acknowledge the good that Jews do. And I think that Jews they're brilliant. Many of them are brilliant.
So when I'm saying net positive, I'm talking jobs, economy. How often you hear about crime, what they do. Like if you have a choice between living in a city in Minnesota, Dearborn, and living in, I don't know what's the biggest city. What's the city that, Boca Raton, let's just say, right? If you have a choice between raising your family between Dearborn and Boca Raton, where do you choose?
Boca Raton,
okay,
of course,
so the point is like they go to a place. And by the way, to me, if that was Muslims, guess what? I would say Muslims. Mm-hmm. But statistically, wherever they live, it's safer, things are nicer, things get better.
I agree.
And that is one part to measure where they're at. Now, do I see them overly aggressive? Do I see them the type that are going to use politicians and buy them like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other people are saying? 100%. Do I see them, they're going to be there in everyone's DM and email saying, hey, we'd love to support you. We'd love to bring you to Israel and, doing all that stuff? It's obvious. I'm seeing it myself, okay? Do I look at that and shame them and say, oh, you shame on... I look at that and say, no, I wish Armenians would do that. I've never gotten an invitation from Prime Minister of Armenia. He should probably send me an invite to go there, right? It's
Armenian
not a bad idea
Syrian,
to come and show the country.
know.
I'm Armenian. I'm a Syrian. Syrians don't have a country. It's probably a good idea. You don't see that. You wish others would do that. So for me, as much as when I go into that... by the way, I'll give you one other side that, Israel's going to be like, yeah. This other side to me is I actually do believe they leverage Mossad to get intel. I actually do believe they use blackmail. I actually do believe they do that.
Okay, so we're on the same page, man.
There's nothing going on with Epstein. No. Michael Wolff did a podcast with them 2 months ago. And when he was at Epstein's house, the 100 hours of recording that he has with him, I said, how many times was Ehud Barak there? Am I saying his name correctly? Barak.
Ehud Barak.
Ehud Barak. He said he was there many times. He saw Bill Gates there many times. Why would the former prime minister visit the guy 30-something times? Just because the conversation's great? That's a little bit suspect, right? So to me, I'll go there, but I'll go the other end. So what I'm trying to do, like if you're wondering what my role is here, okay? My role is I want to continue talking to you. I want us to do many of these together as we go through.
He wants to be Switzerland.
Next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
He wants to stay neutral.
And I'd like you to be around 60 years from now.
Understandable.
To see whatever you want to do. And let's see what your ideas are going to land and what they're going to go through. I'm sure as we all age, some of them get better, some of them get sharper. Maybe this used to be a number 1 to us at 26. Maybe it's going to be number 6 when we're 46. Maybe this used to be number 11 when we're 26. Now it's number 2 when we're 52. Who knows? Life changes. You evolve, right? You're just watching Trump in the last 10 years change. He's not the same. Just the way he does his speaking. I was watching him speak yesterday, and the way he's doing press conference. A very different guy on where he's at. And it's not like he's tired and he's not working. You said him and Charlie Kirk, the Protestant, workers thing that they have. It's not that. I just see his going through it himself. I would like people on both sides to not be like, oh my God, he just had Nick Fuentes on. That's it. No, you don't control me. I want to talk to you.
Okay, let's be completely honest about this. I understand his position fully. He wants to stay neutral. He wants to stay as objective as he can. He wants to play both sides because ultimately he doesn't want to be as polarizing because it can lead to death. This is really what it is. If you become very polarizing on this subject, you can get killed. Many people assume that this is what happened ultimately to Charlie Kirk and many, many other speakers as well. So therefore, as the viewer of those shows, you rather have strong opinions, of course. You want people to stand up for a cause. But people that are in the public limelight, those people take huge risks. It is quite different than you talking with your buddies about certain subjects. Once you put your face out there, you talk about those subjects, you can face dire consequences. And I believe that this is why Patrick Bet-David is holding back here, of course. I was expecting a little bit more talk about Muslims, and not only in that American vacuum. Listen, I get it. Americans always see the world through the American lens, and everything is America in their worldview. And therefore, hey, rightfully so, go for it. If you're truly pro-America, you cannot be pro-Israel, I would say. But that aside, if we're talking about Islam and Judaism and Christianity, we should look into the theology, of course. And therefore, this whole talk about Judeo-Christian values, man, just try going to Israel as a Christian and try to evangelize down there. It is always said, oh, well, try to build a church in a Muslim country. You will see what they will do to you. They will chop off your hands. And meanwhile, there are churches being built in Muslim countries. In Egypt, I believe the biggest church ever has been built just recently. However, try doing that in Israel. Yet again, you're going to get spat on. So therefore, the real question here is, of course, what are the similarities? What are the differences in those Abrahamic faiths? So, very, very simple here. Judaism does not believe in Jesus Christ whatsoever. Not only that, they're saying that he is boiling in his own excrement and that his mother is a prostitute. This is what the Talmud says about Jesus Christ. He's not the Messiah, let alone God. They do not worship him. They do not venerate him. They hate him, theologically speaking. Now, I'm not saying that there are certain Jews that think positively about Jesus, but the theology itself dictates that Jesus Christ was a scammer. And now look into Islam. You could make the case that Muslims simply affirm what Jesus Christ said about himself. He was the Son of Man. He was the Messiah. He was a prophet sent by God, that God is greater than him. All of that we affirm. We believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, that he will return, and that his mother was a virgin. May peace be upon him, of course. So now, the only difference here truly is that Christians believe all of that, and on top of that, they do believe that Jesus Christ truly was God, or is God. He is the second person of the Godhead of the Trinity. So they dive into the Christology, into the divinity of Jesus, etc., you name it. But in terms of veneration of Jesus, we are on the same page. You cannot not believe in Jesus and be a Muslim. So now, try to remove your biases. We as Muslims love Jesus. The Christians will say, oh, well, but you love your version of Jesus, Isa, that is not our Jesus. Man, fine. We again say that Jesus was born from Mother Mary. That person we love, he's our prophet. The Talmud, on the other hand, claims that he is boiling in excrement and that the Messiah never came, but they're still waiting for him. And once the Messiah comes, all the Gentiles will be slaves for the Jews. Look it up, man. I'm not making this up. This is just factual. So therefore, in terms of theology, who do you truly have anything in common? Can we truly speak about Judeo-Christian values, or should we actually start talking about Christian-Muslim values? All right, guys, but this is it for today's video. If you liked it, leave it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out the links in the description box below to further support my work. Thank you very much for that, and as always, may God bless you all. Much love and peace.
يا نفس إن لم تظفري لا تجزعي